It's good to see you all here on our first forum of the new semester. Tipitina's is one of New Orleans' most important music establishments, an institution founded in honor of New Orleans' own Professor Longhair, lovingly remembered as Fess, that has made it a point to preserve New Orleans music and to keep New Orleans a prime location for live music. I would like to introduce to you one of New Orleans Magazine's recent People to Watch, Tipitina's first female general manager and talent buyer, and one kick-ass boss, Lindsay Adler. So what's up?
What's up, Brayden?
How you doing?
Good, how are you? Is my mic working?
Yeah, I think we're working. So how long have you been working at Tipitina's?
I have been working for Tipitina's on and off for about 8 years. I've been the general manager for 1 year, and I've been the talent buyer for about a week.
So how did you get started working for Tipitina's 8 years ago?
Well, I went to Tulane. I was a student there, and I found, always been really into music, and especially local music. And just found myself going to Tipitina's a lot. And one day I just went up to the office and knocked on the door, and I said, "Hey, what's up? I want to work here." And they hired me to do street flyering. So I nailed posters onto telephone poles, and I put flyers on cars, and eventually they offered me an internship, and I interned there for about a year and a half. And I've done a bunch of stuff, a bunch of different work for Tips over the years, and worked my way up to the office, and here I am.
That's pretty cool. So what are some of the positions you held between, interning and becoming general manager?
Well, I worked will call. I worked in the office as like an office assistant. Before I was general manager, I was the promotions and box office manager. So I just kind of ran the office. We have a girl there now named Marlene who does it, but just answered phone calls in general, and just kind of took care of the paperwork. So I got a promotion a year ago, and I'm still going.
Awesome. So what is your typical workday like, if such a thing exists?
Well, I get up at about 7:45, 8 o'clock, and before I even get out of bed, I look at my BlackBerry, I look at my emails, and then go to work anywhere between 9 and 10, just depending on what we have going on. I check my emails in the morning. It's typically pretty slow in the mornings, but depending on the time of year, but we start getting incoming phone calls coming in. I do a lot of office work, or I'm emailing all day long to, bands or agents or, whoever. Sometimes I have to do a walkthrough with someone, or I rarely have meetings outside of the office. I'm at Tips all the time. So, and I also happen to go to most of the shows there too. So I spend more time there than I do with my husband.
Is that a good thing?
Not really.
Some would.
Well, he works at House of Blues, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, he used to be the manager at Tipitina's, so that's how we met. I was an intern, and he preyed on me when I was.
So that's how you became the general manager.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
So, relating to you just mentioned House of Blues. It's actually interesting because I had a question. How do you think your role as general manager / talent buyer of Tipitina's is different from a general manager of some other venues such as House of Blues, or?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. The answer is we are very different from other clubs. House of Blues has the corporate aspect. We're a lot more grassroots. The owner is local, and I worked, directly with him. We also have. We're just a little bit more, I think, relaxed. We have a very small office. There's basically 2 employees there, me and the office assistant. We also have the Tipitina's Foundation, which is something that supports programs, which we can talk about a little bit more about that later. But for musicians and for children, and all of our shows in a way benefit the Tipitina's Foundation because of our affiliation with them, and it just makes it a little bit more special. It's just a more special experience to play at Tips.
Yeah. What kind of skills would you say are most needed in management of a company like Tipitina's? Like, you said it was pretty laid back, which actually struck me by surprise, because
Well,
I kind of feel like the office is crazy hectic.
Okay,
all the
you're
time.
right. It is. It can be very chaotic, but by laid back, I just mean, you know, we have fun there.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it can be very crazy sometimes, but we have a lot of fun, and it's kind of casual. Except one time when I asked Braden to wear a suit, and he showed up wearing a three-piece suit. It was awesome. But aside, what was the other part of the question? I forgot.
What kind of skills would you say?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, doing, being the general manager and the talent buyer, it's, very strong organizational skills and the ability to multitask. I mean, I'm on the phone, which I'm sure that all of you know how to do this, but I'm on the phone, I'm emailing, and I'm texting at the same time all the time. I'm always doing 3 things at once. And, you also have to be able to talk to people, because a lot of this job is, talking to agents and musicians and either trying to work with them and being really charming, or trying to break it to them that it's not going to work. And that, these are just skills I'm not saying that I have, but I'm working on it.
I would say you have.
Oh,
think you did
thanks,
a pretty good
Braden.
job. So, what is your favorite part of the job?
My favorite part of the job is, definitely getting to meet so many different people and making the connections that I've made. It is pretty cool to work with the Tipitina's Foundation, because they do have a lot of amazing programs. They have 4, actually. They have their own internship program, which is for musicians. It's mainly for high school students, but they have the music co-ops where anybody can go and use a computer. It's mainly focused towards musicians, but really anybody could go to one of their offices. They can get help filling out paperwork or use the internet. And then we also have Instruments A Comin', which is like the biggest event of the year, where we raise money to donate instruments to local middle schools. And it's just been really cool, feeling like after the storm, I really felt like I wanted to have a job where I could do something that was making a difference, and something that was really good for the community. And I feel like with the Tipitina's Foundation affiliation, I have been able to do that.
Yeah. So, describe exactly what the Tipitina's Foundation is. Like, how did it get started? And
Well, it started about 7 years ago. That was the first Instruments A Comin'. That was the first year we did that event, which is, if none of you have been, it's like a big outdoor street, block party. It's really cool, and all the proceeds go to the Tips Foundation. They got their 501c3 status 5 years ago, which makes them able to call themselves a foundation. And it really just started as a way to, help kind of preserve the musical culture of the city by, setting up programs for not only adult musicians, but the future of New Orleans musicians, which is children in the city. So, we do a lot of programs, for fundraising for children. And, we had this one event last summer, which I thought was the most amazing. It was like at that time when I'm like, wow, I love working here. We had this guy who plays with Rebirth Brass Band, and he has an organization called Roots of Music, and it was kind of like an it wasn't after school because it was summer, but it was every afternoon for like 2 months, and they came to Tips, and they would have kind of like music theory lessons all around the whole club. And it was like I would be on my computer at 3 o'clock typing, and you can hear these kids practicing in like every room that we had. And it's like, wow, finally we're using the club for something not finally, but it's like, we're using the club for something worthwhile. And it was just really cool to see that. And it was just great to hear children's voices. And because during the day it's empty, it's dark. And it was just really rewarding to see that. So that's another thing that I really love about working with Tips is the rewards that are involved. And also putting a show together, even if it's not foundation related, if it's something that I've worked on, to see it on stage is very rewarding.
So, what does it mean when we see a poster that says this show is a benefit for the Tipitina's Foundation? Which you actually see that a lot for almost all our shows, actually. But what is that?
Well, it just means that the proceeds from that show are going to be donated to the Tipitina's Foundation, and they'll probably go towards a program like Instruments to Come In or the Sunday music workshops that we have every Sunday. And even though sometimes we designate one show to be a benefit for the Tipitina's Foundation, in a way, all the shows we do are, because Tipitina's wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for the Tipitina's Foundation. How, you know, they kind of, I say they like it's a different company, but it's really one and the same. But, you know, stepped in and kind of helped us after the storm to stay afloat. So if Tips the club makes money, Tips the foundation is making money too.
Right.
So they work hand in hand.
Yeah. It's also funny because we work in the same office with the Tipitina's Foundation.
That's true.
Literally
They just moved over. Yeah.
So what is your least favorite part of being the general manager of Tipitina's?
Well, probably all the really crazy people that I have to work with. You wouldn't believe the kind of messages that I get and the people that I have to talk to. Not every day, but just from musicians to, I don't want to name names. I'm just saying that there are some crazy people out there, and they all call me. Also, this is definitely not a job for someone who is not thick-skinned. I get yelled at, screamed at, cursed at so many times, by agents, musicians, managers, customers. It's hard. I've definitely gotten upset, not in public, but, gone home and said, oh, someone yelled at me. It's hard. It's really hard to get used to, and I think I've developed a little bit of a thicker skin now, but this is not a job for someone who can't handle that, because it's really hard to take it sometimes.
So who is your favorite band to work with at Tips?
Now?
No, in the history of your working at Tipitina's.
Like to work with, or
who is the best band to work with? No,
oh,
like
man,
to work with.
I don't know.
Not like
to work with. I don't know. They're all really difficult. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't go into the music industry.
No, it's really hard. No, it's not. It's great, but I'm trying to remember the last really big. I don't know. Who's your favorite band to work with?
I don't know. I don't work like with the bands. Although I did talk to G Love and Special Sauce's talent booker the other day.
Just went on sale today. Good plug.
Was it January
Brady.
18th?
January the 17th. It's a Wednesday, right before Mardi Gras.
Sauce. Be there. But
that's a hard question. I don't know. I hate to sound really lame, but like Rebirth's really easy to work with, and that, the guy's name is Derek, who plays with them, is really involved in a lot of local community efforts for children, and that's the program that we did last summer was with them. So I think it's really cool when people that are in a band also care about the community that they're from, and try to do something to make a difference. And I guess I'd have to say that about Rebirth.
Okay. So what's the best show since?
The best show?
Yeah, ever.
Well, the best show I've ever seen, I always say, was Ike Turner about 5 years ago, and I didn't want to go because I thought he was kind of a not nice person. But my friend was like, no, we gotta go. So we went, and he was so amazing. He had like 8 costume changes, and he had all these glittered suits. They were made of glitter. And he was awesome. He was like, he's just born to be on stage. He was amazing. And I also saw Sonic Youth, which was awesome.
Okay.
But not as many costume changes.
Okay, so this is a long question. Over the past decade, the recording industry has seen a drastic change due to technology changes, because people can now legally download music like extremely easily. So the recording industry is kind of dying, or some would say it's just completely being adapted. But have you seen any sort of drastic change in the live music industry in the past decade?
Only that the ability for people to contact me is like there's so many different ways they can do that now. They can email me, they can send me a link, I'm so bad at these MySpace and Facebook stuff. Braden does all that because I don't even know how to use it. But there's just so many different ways that a band can contact you to ask you to review their music or book them at a club. And I think it's really exciting. There's, gone are the days of just phone calls. I rarely just get phone calls anymore. It's all email, MySpace, Facebook. And my job is pretty much all email. So I guess, that's all I have to say about that.
In a city like New Orleans, like we have hundreds, possibly thousands of music venues. How do you market or promote anything to give yourself a cutting edge?
Well, we are the real deal. We're the real New Orleans experience. We've been around for 31 years. In fact, this is time for my plug. The 31st anniversary series is this week. It starts this Wednesday. And, we have shows from Wednesday through Sunday, really great local stuff. So, we're just a really special place to a lot of people. People tell me all the time, God, I was here 20 years ago, and, now my son's going there, and there's magic in that place. I know that sounds corny, but it's totally true. And I hope that the people that come to shows can experience that as much as I do. But, like I mentioned earlier with the involvement of the Tipatinas Foundation, I think that definitely sets us apart from the other venues. And, we take care of people there, or at least we try to. And I like the space better than other venues.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So what's in store for the future of Tipatina? Is there going to be any, trying to change things, or are we sticking with sort of the old model of how things are done?
I'll always kind of stick with a little bit of the old model as far as booking goes. We do book the local acts, and we give people a chance, and, that's part of our history. But in the last couple of years, we've had kind of a decline in national talent coming through. So that's definitely something that I want to do in my role as talent buyer, is try to bring in some more national acts so we can compete with places like House of Blues and the Howlin' Wolf, because they're the ones that are bringing more of those people in. They're not all good, but I want to.
We want them anyway.
No, I don't want the bad ones. I want the good ones. But I'm saying House of Blues doesn't have all the good ones. But I want to see some more national acts coming through. And, as far as the Tipatinas Foundation, I hope that it grows and we can find more ways to work together and, keep blossoming.
So I'm an intern at Tipatinas, but not everybody really knows what the intern program is all about. So explain the intern program and how you use interns.
Okay. Well, the interns are very important at TIPS because we're very, I don't want to say low budget, but bare bones. I'm, general manager and talent buyer. We have one person who is the office assistant or the office manager, and that's it. So I need a lot of help, and I usually have anywhere from 4 to 6 interns at a time. And we can't operate without interns. That we need paperwork, little things like filing and faxing and definitely answering phones. But like I said, we can't operate day to day without that kind of help. And it can be anything from online projects to making phone calls, but it's so important that I have those students there because I couldn't do my job without them. In fact, we need interns for this spring, so if anyone is interested, please give me a shout. You can just go to the tipatinas.com webpage and go to the contact page and click on my name. But this is like the hardest semester for interning because there's Mardi Gras, there's Jazz Fest, the hours are crazy, at least for me. So I need interns that I know are going to be reliable, and I know that you want to go to Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest shows and all that, but I definitely need people that are willing to put in some time during those weeks. But it's very fun. It's very rewarding, and I can't give you tickets to everything, but I pretty much can. I always say that, like, I can't, I'll try, but I always give you what you want. Okay. Don't I?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So I work at Tipatinas because I'm interested in eventually going into the live music industry. I'd like to own my own venue, but what advice would you give to students who are studying the music industry, who are interested in going into live music? What advice would you give to them to succeed in that industry?
Well, I would say, first of all, get started now. Start interning somewhere. Start putting up flyers somewhere. I mean, everyone has to start small. I mean, I did. Everyone has to. So I would start right now while you're still in school, even if you can only contribute a couple of hours a week. And just I was gonna say I've worked some crappy positions there. They weren't crappy; they were fun. But I've done some things that didn't pay very well or didn't pay at all, and had to do them for years in a row before I got moved up in the company. And I'm glad that I did it, because here I am 8 years later. But it can be hard, and you can be totally broke, but you really need the experience to be able to move up in the music industry. And I would just also say, make as many contacts as you can. I remember when I first started interning, I was talking to agents on the phone even back then, and building relationships is a really big part of what I'm doing right now. So I think that that's really important.
Do you have anything else you want to say, like off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I mean, I love what I'm doing right now, and some days I really hate it just because it consumes my life. But that's because I care so much about it. I know this sounds really corny, but I mean, I pretty much live and breathe Tipatinas. I've been there for a long time. It's a part of my life. I don't own it. There's an owner who is not super involved, but I meet with him pretty regularly. So in a way, I feel like the owner, because I make all the decisions about the venue, and that's really rewarding to me, and it makes me feel like that's my place. So if it's something that you're really interested in doing, and you're willing to put in the years and the experience and the people yelling at you, then it's really worth it, because it's just a lot of fun.
So, does anybody have any questions for Lindsay?
I got a question.
Okay.
Okay, so as a performing band, you might be performing at the Howling Wolf this Sunday. What would you say that a band can do not to be a total pain in the ass to the venue?
In order.
To not be a pain in the ass, just to be, good. And
You mean like at your gig, or to get a gig?
at a gig.
Like, how do you behave at a gig?
Oh man,
to get the
be
club
on
to like
time
you.
for your sound check. Don't stroll in like, "Well, I'm here. What's up?" And I mean, I've never really had it. You know what the problem is? It's like the prima donna attitude thing is the real problem. You show up on time, and you act like you're glad to be there, and you get paid, and you go home, and then you call them again later and say, "Hey, do you want to have me back?" That's perfectly acceptable band behavior. But it's acting like a drama queen, and then calling me and yelling at me saying, "Why didn't my show do well? What did you do wrong?" I'm also the promoter, by the way. I forgot to mention that. And when are you going to have me back? I mean, you never call me back, and just showing up to my office when I have 100 meetings and 1,000 emails, and I can't, just don't expect. I know that sounds horrible, but don't expect things. I love finding new bands and new talent, but there's a lot of you guys, so you just need to be patient, and hopefully I won't screw up by making you mad in some way. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Claire?
Um, Yeah, I mean, it's a mixture of all of those things. You know, we're pretty much open from Thursday through Sunday, sometimes Wednesdays. Just we've been trying to be open more Wednesdays now that just in the past couple months or so, just because, you know, a long time ago we used to be open 6 or 7 nights a week, way before the storm, but things changed. But anyway, sometimes agents will call me or email me, and we'll have a discussion about an artist that's coming through town, and then we'll do it, you know, that way. Or sometimes I will, if it's a local band, a lot of times I usually call them if I have a hole that I need to fill, to see if I can get them in there. I mean, local bands call me too. People drop by all the time. They bring CDs. They email me. They, you know, they ask if they can play, and it's kind of it's a little bit of a juggling act because I'm getting incoming emails, but then I'm trying to go after a band that I want to see. If I see that they're on tour but they're not stopping through New Orleans, I might say, hey, would you want to do a reroute and see if you want to come through New Orleans one night? And a lot of times, I mean, like right now, I have a couple holes left in March, and I'm like looking back to see who we haven't had play in a while, and looking back to see what we did last year right before Jazz Fest. And there's definitely, I mean, there's not really like a finite process to it, but I kind of just have to see what I'm missing. And I try not to, I just took this over like a week and a half ago. So again, there's a lot of stuff that's booked that I didn't actually book. But if I think there's a band that's playing too much, you know, you never want to overplay a band because they'll lose their selling ability. I try to space it out so that everyone, you know, gets played in a, you know, not too often. And I mean, I try to take care of everybody if I think that they're talented. If I don't, then I might just say, I'll call you when I have an opening. So. Well, I do. I mean, I don't have time to do that all the time, but you know, we definitely have like a collection area for CDs. And my office, I keep calling her my assistant. She's really not my assistant. She's really the manager of the office because she does so much. But she will listen to CDs and be like, hey, come check this out. Or I'll send her, someone will email me and say, go to my link, and I'll send it to her and say, hey, is this any good? And then I'll go over to her desk and we'll listen to it together. I mean, we definitely don't ignore the music that comes in. I mean, I'm always trying to look at new things. I mean, I send Braden stuff all the time. I'm like, what do you think about this? And I would say either email me to start. We also have something called Homegrown Night, which is a good way for bands to kind of get their foot in the door. It's not, I've had bands say, oh, you know, we're too good for that. We're better than that. We need to get a paying gig. That is going to really turn me off. So never act like you're too good for Homegrown Night, because it's really a good way to get your foot in the door. We've had lots of bands that started as homegrowns that are playing real gigs there now. So it's definitely something that is real and, you know, a valid program. Also, I totally don't mind people that keep trying to email me. Like if you email me once a week for like a month, maybe I'll just break down and book your band, you know. So it's happened before. So it's usually on Thursdays, but we don't do it every week. We used to do it every Thursday. Now it's 1 or 2 Thursdays a week, depending on the month. But you have to sign up for it ahead of time. You can't just show up. It's not like open mic night. You have to sign up for it.
I'll use the mic this time. This might be too early to ask because it sounds like you're doing a lot and you're still new to your general manager position or whatnot, but I was wondering if there's another step you have in mind as a goal. I mean, being the GM of Titina is huge, but I was wondering if you had plans to maybe run a foundation or something like that, or if there's anything that this job has opened your eyes to that's new that you'd like to try to achieve.
Although the work that I've done with the Tips Foundation has been wonderful and very rewarding, no, I do not want to run a foundation because it's really, really hard to, I mean, right now with the economy the way it is especially, it's so hard to raise funds and ask people for money. And I mean, I'm doing it a little bit with Tipitina's, but with tips, it's like, hey, we got a great band, pay money, and the tips foundation will benefit. You know, I've never been really good at calling people to ask for money. So although what they're doing is great, and I think that they're doing an amazing job, that is something that I don't think I want to do, just because I just kind of like what I'm doing. And what was the thing you asked before? I forgot. I'm sorry.
Basically, if the job has led you to see any new thing that you'd like to accomplish, because you're the GM, you do all like a ton of stuff. It sounds like. So, I mean, it's just saying, well, this feels better than that. You kind of enjoy one thing than the other, so you'd think you'd want to move on to something. I'm just wondering about your future.
Actually, I think I kind of I found my job by accident. I didn't find it by accident, but I was just, you know, doing my thing, working in promotions and box office like I was doing maybe, I don't know, I guess that was about a year ago. And the general manager left tips, and I didn't think that I was qualified to do it, but the owner said, hey, you want to be GM? And I said, okay, sure, no problem. And then, you know, honestly, I didn't really want to be the talent buyer. When he first asked me a couple months ago, I told him it wasn't something I was interested in. It sounds, and not that it sounds like a lot of work, because I already do a lot of work, but it just sounds like work that I don't want to be involved in. Agents are very tough to deal with sometimes, and I told him no. And then he asked me again a couple weeks ago, and I kind of felt like I couldn't say no, so I said okay. And it's actually, I'm so glad that I did, because it's been a very short time. Even though I've been doing this for a little bit longer than a week and a half, I've definitely booked shows before, but it's just been it's been a really exciting 5 days. And I'm really glad that I agreed to do it, because I'm just seeing more and more opportunities come my way. And I don't know, I know that's kind of vague, but I mean, right now, do I see myself doing this forever? Probably not. But I know that, you know, I would like to work either in events or music. And I can see myself at Tiptina's for at least another couple years, if not longer. A lot of people that work there have been there for 10 years plus. So I can see myself being there for a while.
Anybody else? No more questions. Well, I guess that wraps up Forum. Thanks for coming out.